Chapter 3 Unconscious. Rarity, completely white now and wearing a much more casual light blue dress, stared at the apartment door in front of her. Her eyes flicked once more to the address in her hoof, then back to the one hanging next to the door. Just as the last 6 times had confirmed, they were identical. Rarity peered around her surroundings uncertainly yet again. The apartment building she was currently in was small and dingy. Things stained the carpet, and there was a terrible smell in the air. Rarity looked once more at the addresses, praying that the 7th time would change one of them. No such luck. This was without a doubt the home of Twilight Sparkle. Rarity took a deep breath that she immediately regretted and steeled herself up to the door. Just because she lived in the worst housing in Canterlot didn't mean anything about who the pony herself was. In fact, Rarity reasoned, if she was an alicorn in disguise, she would probably want to stay as far away from prying eyes as possible, too. With one more glance at the address, Rarity tapped on the door and stood back to wait. And wait. And wait. Rarity was about to give up completely when there was finally a commotion, and the door opened just enough for her to make out a purple eye framed by glasses. "Yes," came the disgruntled greeting. Rarity felt her heart skip a beat at the sound. If there was any doubt that she had the right pony, well, those doubts had been banished with that one word. "Twilight Sparkle?" Rarity stuttered, trying to peer around the door and see the rest of the pony. "Speaking. What do you want?" Rarity snapped herself out of her daze and shook her head to clear it. Yes, of course. Where are my manners? My name is Rarity Bell, and I have recently read your book, Time Theory and What It Could Mean, and I must say I was intrigued by it. So much so, in fact, that I wanted to meet you in person and discuss the finer details of it, if that wouldn't be too much trouble." Rarity finished off the rehearsed speech with a smile and looked hopefully into Twilight's eyes. Twilight stared at Rarity with a suspicious glare so long that Rarity thought she might have broken her before she finally rolled her eyes and opened the door. "Fine. Come in, but make it quick." Rarity mentally hoof-bumped herself. She was in, and now all she needed to do was gently breach the subject that the ponies standing in front of her from a different time, and now they wanted to start a rebellion against the most powerful force in Equestria. Yep, easy. The first thing Rarity noticed about the apartment she entered was how small it was. The cramped walls and low ceiling gave her a strong sense of claustrophobia. Or perhaps it came from the literal piles of paper scattering around the room, some stacks so tall that Rarity doubted she could reach the top if she stood on her back hooves. They filled so much of the room that the 2 unicorns had to walk in single file just to move anywhere. But Rarity was a polite mare and noticed that second. The next thing Rarity took stock of was her grumpy host. She was definitely a unicorn, as no wings graced her back, but Rarity had hardly been expecting to be greeted by multi-race royalty in this shabby place. The unicorn in question was also very scruffy looking. Her mane stuck up at odd intervals, and her coat, which was shown off by her distinct lack of clothing, was matted in certain places. What little Rarity had seen of her face revealed a pair of glasses that had certainly not been present on the alicorn, most likely for reading or something of the like. Bags were under her eyes, and a scowl that was often used by ponies when someone was interrupting something important decorated her face. Her shoulders were slumped, but she walked with confidence in her cluttered domain. Rarity, as inappropriate as it sounded, kept glancing at the purple pony's flank and starburst cutie mark to reassure herself that she had the right purple pony. Twilight stopped abruptly at a particularly large stack of paper. A deep pink aura lit up around her horn, and she effortlessly levitated the towering mound of parchment to reveal a small coffee table and 2 seats hidden under it. Twilight slumped down in one of them, and Rarity took the hint to occupy the other. There was a very tense silence as the unicorns stared at each other before Twilight broke it with an impatient huff. So you wanted to talk about my book? Rarity replied, shaking herself out of her daze. Oh, yes. Like I said before, I found it most fascinating and hope to perhaps discuss some of the points of it with you. Rarity recited, sticking to her pre-planned alibi. Twilight did not look impressed. You tracked me down and came all the way here to discuss nonsensical theories. I'm sorry, nonsensical? Twilight sighed. Of course. Everything in that book is pure theory and could never have any actual results or even be tested. Yes, theoretical, of course, Rarity replied, keeping her expression neutral as possible. But all we need to talk about is plausible theory. So, theoretically, if some very powerful pony went back in time and changed something very important in the past, do you, theoretically, think that could create something like a different timeline, or would it theoretically just erase the original timeline? What? Huh? Twilight blinked rapidly, clearly surprised by the sudden question. Well, that would depend on if the theoretical time traveler could remember their original timeline. Well, theoretically say they can. Twilight frowned, but gave a determined nod. Well, then that would be alternate, because if nothing else, the timeline would live in their memories. She hummed thoughtfully. Of course, that would also theoretically cause the original timeline to become the baseline for all the others. Rarity leaned forward in her seat. Baseline? What do you mean by that? Twilight was on a roll now and spoke with a happy smile. Well, time is like a piece of paper. Her magic ignited once again and grabbed a seemingly random document from the cluttered room. The paper is flat and smooth now, going in one direction and never straying from its straight path because every pony's decisions, at the individual fibers in the paper, all leads up to the same point, the present. Her magic flared brighter, and a sparkling letter P appeared at the end of the paper. But if I bend the paper or mess with ponies' decisions in the past... Twilight folded the paper in half and creased the fold. The paper is now like two pieces of paper, almost parallel to each other. The first present is still there. She gestured with her horn at the magic P that had not moved. But now a second one is bent away from the original at an angle, creating a new timeline and a new present. With me so far? Rarity nodded, her eyes glued to the presentation floating in front of her. See, the second timeline doesn't want to be bent. Since the two are the same paper, or in other words, the same time with the same ponies doing basically the same thing, just with a few changed decisions at that particular spot, the times will want to realign as closely as possible once again. She released the bent side of the sheet, causing that side to spring up almost retouch the magic P. Ingenious, Rarity praised. So if we dropped the metaphor, then the second timeline, the one the traveler isn't originally from, would try to set up, so, say, certain ponies became friends and certain events start to transpire? Twilight nodded approvingly. Theoretically, that's basically correct. I must say I'm impressed. Not many ponies take the time to study complex magical theory. What inspired you to do this? Rarity waved a hoof dismissively as Twilight's magic winked out of existence, settling the paper onto the table with its brethren. Oh, no reason, darling. Let's just say an, inspired purple friend of mine got me intrigued. Twilight's smile she had acquired during the discussion descended back into a frown. Oh? This friend inspired you so much that you came all the way to Canterlot just to ramble theories with pseudoscientist me? Oh, well, just between you and me, this little bookworm friend of mine really made the prospect seem quite royal. Twilight's frown deepened further. Right. I bet you came to Canterlot to try and find a royal friend, too? Rarity smiled mischievously at Twilight, her spirit soaring. Twilight knew she knew, and they had been getting along so well. This had been going even better than she had expected. Twilight, darling, I think I already found her. Right. Twilight stood abruptly.
I've been a bad host. I should offer you tea. Do you want tea? I have tea. It's fresh, as I was going to have it before you came.
Rarity nodded happily.
Oh yes, please, darling. Oh, this theory talk has made me thirsty, and I always enjoy a good cup of tea.
Twilight retreated to somewhere else in the mess and vanished for a few minutes before returning with 2 cups of steaming tea. She waited until Rarity sipped hers before speaking again.
So, who exactly is this friend you're trying to find? Oh, she's not really my friend yet, and she's an Alicorn princess.
Rarity briefly wondered why she had just proclaimed that information. Wasn't she supposed to approach the subject with tact? She recalled that she had a plan, but strangely the details seemed to be slipping from her.
I knew it,
Twilight growled, not touching her own tea.
You're a nightmare spy, aren't you? I sensed her magic clinging all over you when you came in. Well, I'm telling you now that no matter what she does, she will never find her.
Rarity blinked, and then blinked some more. It was oddly getting harder to see.
A spy? No. While I do work for Miss Moon, I assure you that...
Rarity's head bobbed before she regained control of it.
That she has no idea I'm here, and certainly doesn't know the little secret that you're an Alicorn princess destined to defeat her. You expect me to believe... Wait, me? You think I'm an Alicorn?
Twilight's anger made way for general confusion.
Why would any pony think that I'm an Alicorn, or that I'm destined for anything like that?
Rarity leaned back in her seat, as she had become exceedingly lightheaded.
I met you from a different timeline, the original piece of paper, I think. And you were an Alicorn.
She shrugged, struggling to keep her eyes open.
You said some interesting things, and I wanted to come here and see if it was possible.
Twilight's jaw fell open.
Wait, you're serious? And Nightmare Moon has no idea you came to find me? She's aware I'm in Canterlot, but besides that is clueless.
Rarity said dreamily, her vision rapidly becoming dark around the edges.
I'm seriously going to have to speak to her about this.
Rarity heard Twilight mumble before she drifted into unconsciousness.
And loyalty.
Rainbow Dash read out loud in a bored voice, stealing another bite of a freshly baked scone.
But the 6th element is a mystery.
She looked up expectantly at her pink companion, who was scanning through a thick book of her own.
All right, but according to magical artifacts through the ages,
Pinky supplied, flipping pages,
the 6th is the center for the other elements, so it would have to be a representation for holding harmony together.
She looked up at Dash with a shrug.
So it's either love, magic, or the Force.
Rainbow lifted an eyebrow.
The what? It's from a book, never mind.
Rarity shrugged and bit her scone again.
Then there's some stuff about 2 to 8 bearers channeling the energy through themselves. Yep,
Pinky nodded.
More is better if they're not all super strong alicorns or something, but each of the bearers have to have some trait of the element they channel or it won't work.
Rainbow snorted.
I don't know if these are the best requirements. I mean, even Charged Knight can be loyal. Maybe your intent has to be right.
Rainbow gave Pinky a flat look.
Yeah, and what makes an intent right? If it sounds good,
Pinky said nonchalantly, proceeding to clean a glass that probably wasn't even dirty. Rainbow blinked at her mind trying to find some sense in that sentence, but came up with nothing.
What? Then it'll be harmonious!
Pinky grinned and booped Rainbow Dash on the nose. Rainbow opened her mouth and let it hang there as she processed before closing it again with a chuckle.
All right, that was a bad one, Pinks.
Her laugh quickly turned into a sigh.
I I just wish we had more to go on than just these dumb books. Oh, don't get so grouchy, Dash Dash,
Pinky scolded, discarding her glass and gently patting Rainbow's head.
When Rare comes back, we'll have a new friend and we'll be one step closer to stopping.
Pinky's voice died as her eyes grew clouded.
Pinky?
Rainbow asked, gently poking her friend.
Pinky, you alright? Somebody's coming!
In less than a second, Pinky grabbed the 2 books off the counter and thrust a different one at Rainbow.
Here, keep this hidden, but not too hidden. What? Pinky, what's...
Before Rainbow could finish, the door to the break room swung open and 3 Thestrals strolled in. Rainbow instantly scrambled to her hooves, keeping the book tucked under her wing, and saluted smartly.
Captain Charge Knight, sir.
She nodded to the 2 ponies following him.
Shadow cover, clean break, good to see you.
Charge Knight, the middle Thestral with a dull gray coat and spiky gold hair, was wearing a predatory grin. Number 3. The one that said he knew something bad was going to happen, but also that the victim did not. It made an involuntary shiver go down Dash's back. Featherhead, Charged greeted. I suppose I should have expected to find you conversing with mud ponies. So like you to find company with those lower in class than even yourself. Rainbow bit back the sarcastic response that came to her, and instead replied with a polite,
It can be peaceful around here, Captain.
Charge chuckled, and the other 2 quietly joined in a way that brought images of adolescent bullies to Rainbow's mind. Oh yes, because when I think of peaceful, I think of lunatic ground pounders too. Dash clamped on her tongue before she said anything rash, the captain's lack of dismissal forcing her to maintain the awkward salute position.
I didn't expect to see you here, sir.
Oh, well, the company is atrocious, he said casually, moving up closer to the counter. No pony can deny that the food here is delectable. His gaze lowered onto Pinky, who had been trying to stay far away from the interaction and morphed into something much colder. Daisy's sandwich. Now. Pinky instantly sprang into action and retreated further behind her counter and out of Dash's peripheral. Charged once again took up a casual tone, the other 2 Thestrals not saying a word, but watching with their own predatory gazes. I guess it really shouldn't surprise me that you like this place, Birdbrain. After all, your other source of companionship is that yellow chicken. Rainbow tried to stop it, but her body tensed without her consent. Charge Knight smiled wider at the subtle reaction. Oh yes, that butter friend of yours really is an embarrassment to your already embarrassing race. He leaned in closer to Dash, his grin cranking up a notch. If I were you, I'd just get rid of her. Friends like that have a habit of dragging you down after them. He stayed like that for a while longer, watching Dash for a sign that he had struck a nerve. When she continued to meet his gaze unflinching, he evidently became bored, and his eyes slid to the book tucked under her wing. Rainbow stiffened as Charged Knight withdrew the book, but relaxed once more when she saw the cover. Daring do? Charged drawled. How childish. He threw the book on the counter and picked up the daisy sandwich that had been waiting there. Not taking his eyes off Dash, he took a bite, chewed, and then spat it all over Rainbow's face. Rainbow's left eye started twitching, but besides that, she was the very image of calm. This is stale, Charged Knight growled, turning his gaze off of Rainbow and onto what Rainbow assumed by the terrified squeak a very frightened Pinky. Much too stale. I think the mudslingers should be punished for this. Don't you agree, soldiers? Both Shadow Cover and Clean Break voiced their agreements, while Rainbow's Dash's stiff posture began to tremble. Charge Knight turned back to her and got so close that Rainbow could feel the furs on his nose brush against her own. I said, don't you agree, soldier? When Rainbow didn't respond or even look at him, he growled and continued in a low voice. Maybe I should make you dish out the punishment, Plumage. After all, nothing toughens a softie like making their friends bleed. There was a resonating crack as Rainbow's hoof made contact with Charged's soft cheek. She hadn't meant to hit him. Actually, no, that was a lie. Every fiber in her had been screaming to punch him in the jaw for the past 5 minutes. Only a small, reasonable whisper had held her back on the base that the punishment wasn't going to be worth the satisfaction. But even that gave up and decided that, reasonably, punching him sounded really good. Rainbow drew back as soon as the punch landed. Her reasonable side, who wants it on record that the punch really did feel good, started noting that Charged had backup that was currently circling her, and that Dash was in a whole lot of trouble. Scuffles within the guard were not unheard of, and Rainbow herself had bit in 1 or 2. One wrong word had led to a punch, which led to a bar fight, which usually led to 1 or 2 guards being out of commission for a bit. As Charged Knight was one to usually start and win these fights, Rainbow was extremely surprised when his only reaction was to chuckle, wipe his mouth, and turn on his predatory smile number 1. The one where every pony knows that something terrible is about to happen and Charged was going to enjoy the attention. Well, at ease, soldier. Charged rubbed his jaw and gave a wince. I must say, for a traitor, you have quite a hook. Rainbow froze and became more aware of shadow cover and clean break on either side of her.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Charged Knight rolled his eyes. Oh, please. Don't even try to deny it. Clean Break heard you, the mud pony, and that stupid unicorn talking about overthrowing the princess. And now you're all going to pay for it.
Oh yeah?
Rainbow growled.
You and what proof?
Charged just gave her a flat look and gestured to Shadow Cover. Get the book, Shadow. Shadow Cover saluted and flew over the counter, barely giving the frightened Pinkie Pie a second glance. She rummaged under the counter for a minute before extracting the 2 books Rainbow and Pinkie had been looking at just before. Let's see, Charged said, taking the books from Shadow. That's an eyewitness testifying that he heard you planning. Okay, books in your possession that have to do with things plausible to take down our glorious leader and assaulting the captain of the guard. He gave an exaggerated hum. You know, I think that might just be enough evidence to turn you and the mud pony in for treason. Rainbow swallowed.
But,
Face it, bird brain, Charged sneered, his posture changing to an attack stance. You either come with us now and just get years of jail and pain, or... His smile turned deadly. Or we can do this the fun way.
Hey!
4 pairs of eyes swiveled away from their current confrontation and to the pink pony who was staring thoughtfully up at a ceiling, seemingly ignorant of her and Rainbow's impending doom.
Do you think the reason the back door to this room is a little to the left of being centered is because it's right next to the Everfree and that place is a little off too? Or maybe it makes it easier to see because I don't think a guard's ever been near it. Well...
She shrugged and gave Rainbow an odd look.
Besides for 6 seconds from now.
There was silence as the 4 guards tried to digest the words, each with a mixture of confusion on their face. Eventually, Charged gave up and just shook his head, mumbling under his breath. Rainbow's eyes widened not a moment later as her friend's words finally sunk in. 5 seconds now? Shadow Cover, go grab the freak, will you? 4. Charged turned his grin to Dash. I don't think Clean and I will have any problem with Feather here. 3. Shadow Cover leaped into the air while the 2 male Thestrals closed in on Dash. 2. There was a surprised yelp as Pinkie slipped around Shadow Cover. Charged Knight and Clean Break were close enough to grab Rainbow as she shut her eyes and held her breath. 1. Poof. Dash was in the air and heading towards the back door the moment the bag of, presumably flour, by the grit clinging to her coat, hit the ground, leaving a hacking and momentarily blinded Charged Knight and Clean Break behind them. Halfway to the back, and with eyes still closed, Rainbow's foreleg wrapped around something soft, squishy, and definitely not wearing armor and pulled it into her chest. She braced herself as the 2 crashed into the back door and out into the open sky. Dash blinked rapidly to dispel any flour on her eyes as she soared away from the castle at an upward angle. She mentally pumped her hoof when her eyes confirmed that the soft thing wrapped around her neck was indeed pink and fluffy. As soon as Rainbow could see clearly, she flipped in midair and made a beeline for the Everfree forest, not even looking to see if she was being followed. After 10 minutes straight of diving around trees, pumping her wings as hard as they could go, Rainbow slowed her flight to a much more moderate pace, panting for breath.
Are you hanging in there, Pinks? Still breathing and all that?
There's a longer silence than expected, with the only reaction from the pink pony being a steadily increased trembling. Dash gained another tinge of worry.
Pinky?
Pinky shouted, removing her nose out of Dash's chest and pressing it right up to her face, forcing the Pegasus to stop flying forward lest they crash into something.
Oh my gosh, Dashy, that was amazing! I knew you were fast, but wow, I've never experienced it before. That was the most incredible thing I've ever done. Can we do it again? Can we? Pinky! Pinky!
Rainbow shouted over the blabber.
Breathe a second, would you?
Pinky complied and sucked in a giant breath before squeeing again.
You're just so awesome, Dashy!
Rainbow blushed a bit at the praise.
Well, of course I am. I'm Rainbow Dash. But give yourself some credit too, Pinks. Your plan was awesome. Throwing flour like a smoke bomb? That was smart thinking.
Pinky giggled.
Ah, shucks, you charmer.
Rainbow rolled her eyes and dropped Pinky onto her flank.
All right, wisecrack. Now that we're in the middle of the Everfree, what's your plan?
Pinky blinked at her.
Well, my plan was to get away before we got punished, and now...
Rainbow smacked herself in the face.
You don't have a plan? What are we supposed to do? Wander around this dangerous forest for the rest of our lives?
Pinky bowed her head.
I'm sorry, Dashy.
Rainbow sighed.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm stressed, but who wouldn't be? We've just been labeled as traitors and have literally no place to go, so we can think of a plan.
Her eyes suddenly widened.
Oh crap, no, Fluttershy! If I run away, then she's going to get hurt. We have to go get her now, before it's too late. Come on, Pinky, climb back on. We have to move now.
Pinky didn't respond.
Pinky, look, I'm sorry I yelled at you, but we really need to get going. This is super important.
Pinky still didn't respond, and made no movement beside the steady rise and fall of her shoulders.
Pinky?
Dash really didn't have the emotional strength to deal with this much worry in one day. Gently, she nudged the Earth Pony's head.
Pinky, you okay?
Pinky tilted forward, and Rainbow found hope that was quickly banished when she didn't stop tilting and ended up falling flat on her face, gentle snores echoing from her pink form. Rainbow stared.
Pinky, what the heck are you?
Then her eyes landed on her friend's back and a small wooden blow dart embedded in her skin.
Oh no. Oh crap. Oh crap. Oh crap. Oh! Ha!
Rainbow grasped as her panic attack was cut off by a small prick at the base of her neck.
Oh crap.
She muttered as she fell unconscious beside Pinky.